What is up, everyone? Today, I want to tell you a story. So, Miss PNW has a friend, let's say that, and they're roughly 4 or 5 years younger than we are, and which is probably about 10 years younger than I am. So, they are in the process of buying their first house. If you don't know, I'm roughly 39, so 29 years old. And they're millennials, what can you say? So am I. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. You tell me. Either way, housing market got to the point where they could afford it. They bought a new house. I gave them a machine, and they never used it for about 2 months because they didn't really know how to turn it on. And for whatever reason, they found it very difficult to look it up on the internet. I find that one hard to believe, but just in case there isn't anything, I will make sure to put it out there. So what we're going to do is something very simple. I'm going to call this the basics. I'm going to even have a little playlist. So if you're watching this one and you have a different machine, I'm going to be going through weed eaters, blowers, lawn mowers, how to start them, how to use them, stuff like that. The basics, hence the name. So today, the basics on this is going to be starting. How to start it, what's going on with it, what should you look for, and just general tips. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. What is this? Well, technically, this is an edger. Now, don't get that don't be scared by it. This is literally almost exactly the same thing as a weed eater or anything with a shaft like this. So let's just delete that from your memory and imagine whatever you have. In addition to our deleting and you imagining, we're not going to pay attention to the brand. All these machines run basically the same. There might be a few tiny differences, but they're basically the same. So take the brand, don't worry about it, and the color, everything about it. This is simply a weed eater. Having said that, let's look at it a little closer and discuss it. Now, I'm not going to discuss if you're having problems. This is not that video. This is how to purely operate, what things are and what they do. So, this is a fuel tank. It keeps fuel. Unless it states otherwise. This is a mixed fuel machine. What does that mean? There's going to be gasoline with oil. Not motor oil, but premix. Excuse me, not premix, but a 2-cycle oil. What is that? It's a special oil made for cylinders like this that have no oil to lubricate the bottom or even anything really. So the oil is in the fuel. Yes, it's dirty, but it works. So before we do anything else, I cannot stress, even if it says 4-mix or something like that, no. Unless it tells you it is a straight fuel machine or no need for oil, or if you look around your machine and you see a dipstick anywhere, usually it's on the bottom, then you're safe. If you don't see a dipstick, then don't even bother. It's a mixed machine. So I have a video how to mix it, but let's say for this machine's sake, this takes 50-to-1. That means for every 50 parts fuel, there's 1 part oil. Boom, done. We fill it with that good high quality oil. Don't buy the cheap stuff. Cheap stuff will cost you money at the end and save you money today. The only problem is usually the money that you have to spend later is not the same amount as you save today. So keep that in mind. Behind here is the air filter. That will get clogged. However, depending on how much you use it, you don't really have to worry too much about this. Maybe every 2-3 years, take a look at it, blow it out if you need to. There's dust and crap in there. Get rid of it. You generally, unless it's damaged, can't get away with cleaning it. They're cheap, however, so I'd always recommend getting a new one when you can, at least every 2 years, depending on how much you use it. Yet again, if you only use it for 15 minutes a year, well, that air filter is going to last you a really long time. Right here is a spark plug. It does exactly that. It sparks. When fuel goes in the top end of the cylinder, it gets compressed. It needs something to light it. This isn't a diesel. Spark plug gives a spark that's hot enough to ignite the fuel, and boom, you have combustion. Cylinder goes down, power happens, you're happy, everyone's happy, your yard's happy. Doom. pull rope, cable, however you want to call it, this is how you're going to pull it. When you pull these, there's always a chance, granted, very small chance usually, especially if it's been in your possession and you've been doing this for a while, there's always a chance these machines can potentially kick back on you. So when you pull on it, don't like hold on to it with your, your fear and mighty fingers. Put them right here. If this were to pull out of my hand, it will hurt, don't get me wrong, but my hands will be broken. If I were to pull it, hold it like this, that's just going to be really painful, and I'm either going to break a finger or the handle. I don't really want to do both. Trust me, with a machine like this, you have no need of holding on to it that hard. So, moving on. The rest of it, behind the air filter, is a carburetor. Now, this is the part that could be a little bit different. Every machine is. If you look right here, this machine has a primer. A lot of times, somewhere on the machine, there's going to be a sticker that says press 7 times, 5 times, 3 times, whatever the amount of time is. That's what they're talking about. Press this. Good rule of thumb. If it's empty, make sure you keep pressing it until it's full. And sometimes, if you have a see-through line, you can see the fuel moving. Once you see fuel steady in both lines, if you're able to, of course, then you're good. Another good giveaway that you're ready is when you're pressing it, the amount of fuel doesn't really change anymore. You'll see the fuel level. There'll be a little bubble in there, or a couple bubbles, but the more you pump it, if it doesn't change, you're there. So we are good to go on that one. Yours may not have that, like I said. The reason why they put that on there is it moves fuel throughout the carburetor and it makes it easier to start. In this machine, there is a mechanism to move fuel while it's running. That way it doesn't starve for fuel. So machines that don't have that rely on that system by itself. I'm not going to get into it, but just know there's a system. Moving on. Right here is a choke. Now, it's usually a little lever. When they mean choke, they mean you are cutting the flow of air from the machine, and it's choking it. And it sounds bad, but it's good. When it's cold, a machine like this, and pretty much every machine that uses gasoline, is going to need a much richer mixture of fuel to get started. And then once it starts to warm up, it no longer needs it. Machines like this, it's very common you put the choke on after you're done priming it, and then you pull on it, and then it will run very poorly, maybe kick around a little bit, and then die. That's completely normal. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just know when they say choke, it means this lever. There's full choke, which is what this is right here, like that. And then there's half choke, which just means in between the full and the no choke, so halfway if it's travel. And then there's no choke, which is your run position. When you're running, you should always have it on no choke. If you have to run it with choke, you have a fuel problem, and you probably need to get that looked into. Or watch some of my videos and fix it yourself. So, choke, that's what it is. To start it, you put a choke on. But don't worry, we'll go over the final starting procedure of this machine towards the end. Now, right here is a throttle. A lot of these machines will have a safety where you actually have to be pressing down something, and it will allow you to move the throttle. This is what they call an idle. Idle means it's the resting position. It's where it sits when it's not doing any work, when you're just letting it go, when you're setting it down to go get a beer, whatever you're doing. Idle means a low engine speed, and majority of the time for machines like this, it means the end is not spinning. That's not 100%, but majority of them, the end should not be spinning. Like Featherlight, that's a pretty common one I see. It has no clutch. It's a direct system. No matter how low the engine speed's going to go, you're going to have movement at the end. So majority of them, however, the engine shouldn't be in idle. The end should not be moving. And then Obviously here from there, there's full throttle, half throttle, quarter throttle, no throttle, same thing. On and off, that's very important. This will protect you from causing yourself any harm. Sometimes the switch is on the handle, sometimes it's on the machine, wherever it is, locate to on and off. Because if something were to go haywire, maybe the throttle got stuck open and it's just revving out of control, something like that, you need to turn it off quick and in a hurry, then your on and off switch is going to be your key. Now, if yours is broken and it's revving out of control, there's going to be two options you have. This is kind of a bonus for you, whoever's still watching. So, remember how I told you when you first turn the choke on and you try to start it, it might die? That's because there's too much fuel and not enough air. It's just too rich. Well, at this point, if you're needing to turn it off, you theoretically... Another way you can kill it is by pulling the spark plug wire. That sometimes is buried and it can be real difficult. Like, for instance, I see that steel over there. It's not, you have to take a plate off the top. Like, you're not going to have access to it in an emergency, so the best thing you do is turn a choke on. So know that if you are needing to turn it off fast and your on and off isn't working, those two are pretty much your best options besides, damaging the machine, which is not good. But let's go ahead and move to starting. I'm not going to explain how to drop start it. It's not something I think a person who doesn't know how to turn it on should really be doing right now. But the switch is set to on. The primer has been primed. The choke is set to full choke. Now, I'm going to hold it and give it a pull. Now, when you do this, you have to pull fast. Not necessarily hard, but fast. And look how I'm pulling it. Fingers. Choke is off. So, you should never do that. I did that to explain this point. You need to let these warm up. If you don't let them warm up, they're going to bog, which is what you saw. Bogging is not good. It means it's could be a fuel problem, but majority of the time it's because it's cold. So if it's cold, it's going to do that. Let it warm up first. Don't just go all crazy on it, especially don't do what I just did. You could do it once in a while if you're in a hurry, but let's just say if it's not warmed up and you wrench on it like I just did, you risk engine damage. But just know, if it does bog when you first turn it on, it's probably because it's cold. Let it warm up and continue using it. But other than that, we should be set. Hopefully this helped you out. If you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101, and I'll catch you on the next one. You have a good rest of your day.